What if I told you that one of the greatest mysteries in human history comes from just two ancient texts: a lost city, an advanced civilization, a powerful empire said to have vanished in a single day and night? For centuries, scholars, adventurers, and dreamers have been captivated by the legend of Atlantis. But what's the truth behind it all? Was Atlantis a real place that vanished beneath the waves? Or was it simply a philosophical tale told by one of the world's greatest thinkers? Let's decode the truth about Atlantis, and explore whether it was a myth, or a memory of something real. The story of Atlantis begins not with explorers or archaeologists, but with the philosopher Plato. Around 360 BCE, Plato wrote two dialogues, Timaeus and Critias. These were not history books or geographical texts. They were philosophical works in which Plato explored ideas of politics, ethics, and the ideal society. In these dialogues, Plato introduced Atlantis as a powerful and advanced island nation that existed around 9,000 years before his own time. He described it as lying beyond the Pillars of Heracles, what we now call the Strait of Gibraltar. Atlantis, according to Plato, was larger than Libya and Asia combined. It was wealthy, technologically advanced, and militarily powerful. Its people were prosperous but grew corrupt over time. They lost their moral compass and, as a result, the gods punished them. In a single day and night of misfortune, Atlantis was swallowed by the sea and disappeared. This tale has puzzled thinkers for over 2,000 years. Why would Plato, a philosopher known for his use of allegory and metaphor, go into such elaborate detail about a fictional place? Was it purely a metaphor, or was it inspired by something real? Plato's description of Atlantis was remarkably specific. He detailed the city's structure, a series of concentric rings of land and water, with bridges connecting each ring. He spoke of massive temples, palaces, docks, and harbors. The buildings were constructed using red, white, and black stone. There were hot and cold springs, vast gardens, an advanced irrigation system, and a massive central canal that connected the city to the sea. The kings of Atlantis, Plato wrote, were descended from Poseidon, the Greek god of the sea. This connection to divinity was meant to symbolize their greatness, and ultimately, their fall from grace. Many scholars believe that Atlantis was never meant to be interpreted as a literal place. Plato may have used it to critique the society of his time, particularly Athens, warning of what could happen if a civilization became too proud, too greedy, and too detached from moral values. However, the sheer amount of detail in Plato's account has led others to believe there may have been a kernel of truth behind the myth. Could Plato have based Atlantis on a real civilization, long since forgotten? The search for Atlantis has taken researchers across the globe. One of the most discussed possibilities is the island of Santorini, known in antiquity as Thera. Located in the Aegean Sea, Santorini was home to the Minoan civilization, one of the earliest advanced societies in Europe. Around 1600 BCE, a massive volcanic eruption destroyed much of the island, causing widespread devastation. The Minoan cities, ports, and agriculture were wiped out in what is believed to be one of the largest eruptions in human history. Supporters of this theory argue that the Minoans may have been the inspiration for Plato's story. Their society was technologically advanced, with sophisticated plumbing, writing systems, and maritime trade. The volcanic destruction could easily have inspired tales of a lost civilization swallowed by the sea. Other candidates for Atlantis's location include the Azores Islands in the Atlantic, the Caribbean, Antarctica, and even the Sahara Desert. In the desert, satellite images have revealed curious geological features that some claim resemble city structures buried under sand. Still, these remain speculative at best. One compelling theory places Atlantis near the Strait of Gibraltar, possibly in the region of Doñana National Park in southern Spain. Some geologists and archaeologists have argued that ancient marshlands in this area match Plato's geographic descriptions. In 2004, satellite imagery was used to scan these marshlands, and researchers claimed to find rectangular and circular patterns suggesting ancient settlements. However, no conclusive evidence has been found, and mainstream archaeology remains skeptical. A more radical theory suggests that Atlantis may not have been in the Atlantic at all. Some researchers argue that Plato mistranslated or exaggerated the distances and that Atlantis was actually located somewhere in the Mediterranean, possibly near Cyprus or even Tunisia. But others believe that Atlantis never existed at all, at least not in the physical world. They argue that it was a purely symbolic tale, designed to embody Plato's philosophical views. According to this interpretation, Atlantis was meant to contrast with Plato's ideal society, a utopia of reason, balance, and virtue. Atlantis, by contrast, was a society driven by greed, ambition, and excess. Its destruction served as a cautionary parable. The debate over Atlantis has led to many fringe theories as well. During the 19th century, interest in Atlantis surged thanks to a man named Ignatius Donnelly. His 1882 book, Atlantis, The Antediluvian World, proposed that Atlantis was the original source of all ancient civilizations, from the Egyptians to the Mayans to the Druids of Britain. Donnelly's book became a sensation and laid the foundation for countless pseudoscientific theories about Atlantis. In the 20th century, Atlantis was absorbed into spiritual and mystical beliefs. Theosophists claimed that Atlanteans had psychic powers and lost technologies. Some even believed that Atlantis was located in another dimension or was a base for extraterrestrial beings. These ideas found their way into pop culture, influencing films, books, and television shows. Today, Atlantis remains a powerful symbol. It represents the human fascination with lost knowledge, ancient wisdom, and forgotten glory. It appeals to our sense of wonder, the belief that there is always more to discover, more to uncover, and more to remember. Even scientists have joined the conversation, though with caution. Some researchers study oral traditions and myths from around the world, looking for common elements that may hint at shared historical events, like great floods or sudden environmental disasters. These stories, passed down through generations, may have merged and evolved over time, eventually becoming tales like that of Atlantis. Psychologists like Carl Jung viewed Atlantis as a collective archetype, a story that speaks to something deep within the human psyche. According to this view, Atlantis symbolizes a lost innocence, a golden age that was destroyed by human weakness. It's a narrative that appears across cultures and time periods, a perfect world lost due to pride, greed, or disobedience. In some ways, Atlantis is not just a place, but a mirror. A mirror that reflects our hopes, our fears, and our understanding of civilization itself. Whether or not Atlantis ever existed, the legend continues to shape our imagination. It raises questions about the nature of history. How much of what we know is based on fact? How much is shaped by story? Atlantis forces us to confront the limits of our knowledge. Even with modern technology, satellites, sonar, deep-sea submersibles, we have explored only a tiny fraction of the Earth's oceans. It's estimated that more than 80% of the ocean floor remains unmapped. What could be hiding beneath those depths? Could there be ruins, fragments, or entire cities waiting to be discovered? Or are we simply projecting our own desires onto the unknown? Atlantis, in that sense, is both a mystery and a metaphor. It's a mystery that invites us to explore, and a metaphor that reminds us of the fragility of even the greatest civilizations. History is filled with examples of societies that rose to power, only to collapse under their own weight. The Roman Empire, the Khmer Empire, the Maya. All once great, all eventually lost to time. Atlantis serves as a warning that no matter how advanced, no civilization is immune to destruction. And often, the seeds of that destruction lie within. Perhaps that is why Plato's story continues to resonate. Not because of its physical details, but because of its timeless message. So, was Atlantis real? Was it a sunken city, a volcanic island, a memory of Minoans, or a pure invention? We may never know with certainty. But the search continues, in books, in oceans, in ruins, and in our own minds. Sometimes, the most powerful stories are not the ones we can prove, but the ones we can never fully dismiss. Atlantis may or may not have existed. But in a way, it doesn't matter. Because its legacy, its mystery, and its meaning continue to live on. Thank you for watching Historic Decode. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of history's greatest legends, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. And let us know in the comments, what do you believe? Was Atlantis a myth, or a memory?